Good afternoon and good morning everyone, and welcome to this webinar about big data in 4 steps. My name is Ruud Verstraeten, I'm product marketer for Blueconic, and today we're going to talk about the opportunity of big data and how it can help you better segment your audience and how it can help you drive impact in 4 steps. But before we start the contents of this webinar, a couple of housekeeping notes. We slotted about 30 to 35 minutes for this presentation, and we reserved some time for a Q&A at the end of this presentation. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat box in your WebEx window, and we'll take care of your questions in the end. Also, the recording of this webinar will be shared with you after the webinar, tomorrow, somewhere during the day. Now, let's start with this webinar, big data, and let's start with something I used to love when I was a kid, playing Guess Who. So I want to start this webinar off kind of getting an idea of the audience that we have in this webinar today. So I want to, like we do with Guess Who, ask you some questions. Now, because we're in a webinar, we'll take it easy, and I prepared just one question for you. So I'm just going to see if I can pop up the poll here in WebEx. There we go. So I'm curious to know, everyone in the audience, how often do you work with big data projects? And by big data projects, I mean projects that involve customer data in that amount that it's too large to manage by hand. And you require some kind of software to do the analysis. So large sets of data that you work with. Do you do that on a weekly basis or even more than a weekly basis? Would you work with that on a monthly basis, or is your company involved with that only on a yearly basis or even less than on a yearly basis? Let's see. Let me close the votes there, see if they're running in. Yep, see some move. And let me see if I can show them back to you again. So actually the audience is quite educated on big data as we have in the webinar today. Now it's good to benchmark against this maybe also for yourself. A stunning 56% of members in the audience are working with big data on a weekly basis, or even more than that. So I assume a lot of you know that a lot of those applications that we use in marketing actually use big data already. If you think about your own day-to-day marketing activities using, for instance, Google Analytics to analyze the performance of your website, big data is being used within that. Or if you advertise on Facebook for to reach out to your customers, or you advertise using AdWords, every one of those media uses big data to optimize its performance. So in that sense, indirectly as a marketer, you're using big data on a daily basis already. Now this picture actually, and let me close the poll again, this slide actually tells the premise of my presentation to you today. Often there's this image on big data in marketing that it's really hard, or that it requires a lot of effort to take the value from big data. Now really, today I want to emphasize that big data doesn't have to be hard. Big data is really all about what we just did, playing Guess Who, like we used to do when we were a kid. Asking the right questions to your audience, and based on those questions, making the right types of segmentation in your audience, so you can improve your marketing efforts. So, better segmenting, and I have one example of a company that I want to show you that is working with big data to segment their customers better. And it's actually a quite famous example. It's been in the news, it's been all over the marketing publication, the example of Target. Now, for those not familiar, I'll go into it a little bit. Target actually was looking to acquire or to attract more loyal buyers. As you probably know, Target is kind of a low involvement brand and very much relies on consumer routines. Now, if there's one thing about routines that we know is that they change when people go from one life phase to the other. And what Target discovered is actually that one very important life phase shift that people go through is when they go from the life phase of being a couple, living together, to the life phase of being parents. In other words, having a kid. So Target said these are the people that are, we want to attract these kind of people to our stores. We think they'll make loyal buyers, and they have good products for these kind of consumers also. So what they did is they took the loyalty card that Target has and started analyzing purchases. Specifically, they started looking at all of the consumers who bought diapers. Can we analyze back in our data to predict or construct an algorithm that predicts when they would start buying diapers? In other words, can we predict when a woman gets pregnant? They took that data and a mathematician called Andrew Paul actually did an analysis, made an algorithm based on that data, and found that buying products such as unscented lotions, wetties, some kind of creams would add to the likelihood that someone would be pregnant in the future. Now, so they started using this algorithm, and what they did, if your loyalty and your buying behavior would match that algorithm, they'd send you coupons with discounts for pregnancy products, diapers, those kind of things, to try and get your loyalty in really from the start and get that new routine going to Target instead of the other store. Now, the story is that at some point in Minneapolis, an angry dad walked in the store in Target, angry because Target sent his daughter coupons for pregnancy products, and he said, "You have no rights to encourage my daughter to get pregnant. She's only in high school. She's only very young. What are you doing?" So the floor manager panicked. He said, "Okay, don't worry, we're gonna fix this. This should not have happened. I'm gonna look into it and call you back." And so he called the headquarters. They said, well, we have this new algorithm running, and something might have gone wrong there. So give the man some flowers, try and apologize and fix this. So call him back. He said, "Okay, sir, so sorry about this happened again, and want to, extend our apologies." The man said, no worries. I actually owe you an apology. I talked to my daughter. She's due in December. So a story that, went on in marketing and is talked about a lot. And it really shows the strength of big data and the huge opportunity that we have in our hands here. Another example is this company Euclid that operates from the Silicon Valley, and they analyze retail behavior. So they look at your smartphone signal, see if you linger at the window, walk in the stores, what's your path, where do you go, and what products do you look at, and do you actually buy? And they overlay this image with their video imaging. So actually what you see here, and this makes it very literal, consumers or everyone has a trail of data that they leave behind. So we can analyze this trail of data and analyze someone's consumer behavior. Now this is tremendously powerful. What if we could segment these consumers and offer them the right experience, the right message in real time to influence their consumer behavior? Now this is what big data is doing. And this is why big data is being called the paradigm shift that's going on in marketing. And I'll show you some of the results of marketers that I've spoke to that are using this mainly online to improve their results. First, we'll briefly look at what is big data. To a couple of you, this might be familiar, the 3 V's of big data. So what comprises big data? It's actually 3 V's, one being volume, second one being velocity, and third variety. So these are kind of the conditions that data has to meet and able to be big data. So this is what they mean. Volume really means that you need software to be able to analyze that. Like I said in our poll, these are data sets that are not, you cannot handle these by hand, they're too big. Velocity, this really has to do with the real-time characteristic of this type of data. So this is data that's moving with the pace of your customer. Real-time pace. So big data is also being measured in milliseconds rather than batch processing. So it's iterating in real time going on. And variety has to do also with that fact. Since we're analyzing real-time data, we're analyzing things like behavior, things like attitude, and not like we used to do back in the direct mailing marketing days where we would look at demographic data, those kind of things. So there's a lot more variety in the type of data that we're analyzing. So kind of a definition of what data is and what comprises it. Now, let's have an idea of the state of big data in marketing today. Now, I know the audience today is well educated in using big data, but generally speaking, the state of marketing usage of big data is best represented by this quote that I found from Dan Ariely. There he is, behavioral scientist on Duke University, and he said big data is much like teenage sex. Everyone talks about it, nobody really knows how to do it, and everyone thinks everyone else is doing it, so everyone just claims they're doing it. And he's right too. Last year, Forrester researched this. Of all the data that we have in our company, of our customers, of our processes, we only use 12% of that to improve them. Now, why is that? There's actually a cartoon of cartoonist of Tom Fishburne that really illustrates that very well. It says, we found a correlation in the data. Everyone take a razor. Sales numbers correlate with shaved heads. Now this really highlights kind of the issue that we have with big data still. We have a huge set of data that we have access to. And you can find the strangest thing if you would just look at that data and look at correlations. But big data isn't about how much data you can get or gathering as much data as possible and trying to drive correlations somewhere within that data. Big data really is about asking the questions on what type of data you need to be gathering and on what type of questions you need to be asking your audience to segment them and to offer them more personalized or individualized experiences to improve your marketing along the way. So big data really is about better segmenting. Now, as this picture shows, a lot of marketers still struggle with how to actually implement that. So what type of data do I use and what do I actually do with that data? So to give some handles, we went out and did a quite extensive set of research together with a university here, and we had interviews and talks with experts, authors on this topic, but also with a lot of marketers, asking them how they're using big data. And we kind of brought that all together in this model of 4 steps on how to be successful with big data, on how to handle your big data projects. Now, really 4 steps to take to face this head on. So you start with identifying the type of data that you have available. Now, this might seem very straightforward, but for a lot of marketers that we talk to, even though they had access to a tremendous amount of data in their organization, they did not have the slightest idea where to find all of these sets of data or how to use them or what kind of data would be there. So identifying your available data is an important set here. And you'd be surprised how much data you already have available to you. Second step, obviously, is to look at your business goal. Or you can also say here your marketing goal. Or in some cases you could say, I'll select my campaign goal and take a look at how I use that data to improve it. Third step, obviously, is to match that data and the goal that you're trying to work towards. And the final step is to launch a campaign. And by launching a campaign, I mean a dynamic campaign that targets to different segments of your audience or of your visitors. And we'll go into it a little bit later. So first step, identify the available data. So we identified 5 types of data that most marketers have available to them or can get easy access to. So I'll not go through these all in details because they're in the slides and you'll receive the recording. But basically, it's attitudinal data, which means analyzing the needs and the wants of your customers. So this is really implicit data. This is what it tells you. And attitudinal data really works to predict behavior, which is the next one. And that's behavioral data. And behavioral data shows the actual behavior that your consumers are engaging in. So how are they using our product? How are they using our channels, our website? And even how are they responding to surveys or polls that we put on our website, and what are they filling in about us? Think about your Net Promoter Score kind of things, for example. Then demographic data, that's self-explanatory, I believe. The loyalty-based data is another one where you look basically at the involvement of your consumer with your brand. Now, there's different ways of measuring that. You can look at some kind of loyalty score, but you can also look at the number of complaints or the number of purchases that someone has done, or whether he's an old or a new customer and how long he has been with your company. And the last one is kind of interesting, is the value-based data, and this is new to a lot of marketers, where you really analyze customer value, and that is can be comprised of a couple of things. So how much do they purchase? What's their referral value? Do they bring new customers across? Do they have an influencer value? And even a knowledge value. What kind of knowledge of the market can I take by researching this visitor? What is he displaying that is valuable for me from a knowledge perspective? Now, as said, a lot of marketers actually have quite some data in these the 5 different data types available to them. The question is, how do we use that? That's where we get to the business goal. Now, there's a lot of different business goals, a lot of levels of business goals that you can talk about, and I listed the main ones that we've seen in our research here. So increasing customer acquisition, looking at churn, loyalty, upselling, cross-selling, trying to improve the share of wallet. A lot of organizations are working with that. But it can also be very simple goals, such as I'm running a campaign and I have very clear conversion rates or goals that I need to work with this particular campaign. And I'm going to use that data to improve those. So given that, the next step is to make that link. So what data do I use for what business goal? And that's where really the results of this research are coming in. So we simplified kind of the research and how marketers work in this one single table. Now, I'll not go into every one of these details from a theoretical perspective, but I want to give you a couple of examples somewhat later on these slides. The one thing I do want to highlight here is that you see that mainly attitudinal and behavioral data are very popular, regardless of the marketing or the business goal that marketers have here. The first columns are very popular. And one thing we also see is that the demographic column is not being used that much or valued that highly in these kind of projects. And really that is because we're shifting from more of a static marketing, traditional marketing like we used to do in direct marketing, direct mailings, to a more real-time marketing perspective, where you have smaller and smaller windows of opportunity where you can influence your consumer. Someone might be on your website only for 4 minutes, and in those 4 minutes, only in those 4 minutes, you have the opportunity to change his behavior and to make that he does or does not buy your product to solve his problem. Like I said, the last step of this is launching your campaign, and I already called that kind of dynamic campaigns. And really what we're doing here is targeting different segments of our audience as we understand from our data and trying to get them the right experience, the right a message that tailors to their specific needs, like we've seen in our attitudinal and behavioral data. Now this is where Blue Conic also comes in. So this is where we come in as an organization. BlueConic is an online engagement platform that helps marketers offer the right message to the right individual to drive immediate results across all of their online channels. Now we do that in 3 basic steps, and I'll just go through this really briefly so you understand kind of the background of the examples that are coming after this. So the first step is to look at the behavior, and this is really where we gather data of our visitors or of our audience. Now we start doing this from the very first click. So even visitors that land on your website that are anonymous, which is, if you look at it, mainly 95% of visitors, from the very first click, you start profiling their behavior. What are they looking for? Why are they reaching out to me, and what kind of solution are they looking for? What can I tell by their behavior? This is being profiled across your different channels, and the next step is to draw a conclusion from that. So what segment is he in? Is he an existing customer or a new customer? Is he really in the market to buy my product, or is he just orienting on the different functions and options? And next, the interactions come in. So this is where we have the time frame of 4 minutes and try and get the right interaction to the right individual so we can influence their buying behavior. So based on the data that we gather, we insert messages, banners, text, layovers on website, light boxes, those kind of things. And again, feed that back to what are the results, how are people clicking on that, and iterate the process, look again at the behavior and interact more relevantly. Now, as I said, one of the characteristics of big data is that it moves really fast, velocity, the 1V. And I said we define that in milliseconds. So every time it's faster than 1 second. And actually how BlueConic works is, on average, we iterate in about 24 milliseconds. So that's faster than the average page load. So basically a consumer, a visitor, would not see a page change. But actually with every click, every swipe, or every tap or like on any channel that he's visiting, every click or swipe is being stored in his profile, and the next most relevant interaction is being served out. Alright, so that's kind of how the underlying mechanism works. Now let's get to the examples. I took a couple of customer examples of marketers that are working with big data and driving some true impact, and I divided them into, I actually gave 6 examples based on those 6 business goals that we saw in our step 2 of big data. And the first one is about customer acquisition. And like we say in customer acquisition, you use a lot of attitudinal behavior. Attitudinal data. So what are the needs or the wants of the visitors that you have in front of you? What's really driving them, and how can we help them? Now this is an example of one of the largest soccer publishers here in the Netherlands, Football International, or Soccer International. They have about 10 million visitors a month, and they run next to a website. They have a slot TV program that's very popular. They have a magazine that still goes very strong, and a tremendous mobile app presence that's where a lot of eyeball is shifting for them. And so they had this, like I said, the goal was customer acquisition, and they had this issue with an online store that they were raising. They put online. There's actually, like we say here in Europe, soccer is emotion, and they have readers from all kinds of backgrounds in terms of their club preferences. So fans of the Amsterdam Ajax and fans of the PSV in the south of Holland. And what happened is they have this splash page before you enter the real contents of the website, and they would offer some kind of e-commerce offer there. And at this one point in time, they had jerseys for Ajax supporters to drive some traffic to their store and to drive their business model in the new e-commerce store. And actually because of that, because of those jerseys standing there, they got a lot of angry emails and calls from fans from other clubs. saying, hey, you're this publisher company, you should be independent, you're promoting this one club, you're trying to sell shirts, you're, you know, basically being really angry at this company. And what they did, obviously, is they took this off their website really quickly, but then at the same time still wanted to use that opportunity to drive traffic to the store. So that's where we came in with Buconic. So a couple of steps, like I said before, starts with behavior. We started to look at content consumption. So who do we have in front of us? What's their attitude? What's their need? What's their want? And in this case, the main important thing to look at is their club interest. Are they a fan of the Amsterdam club? Are they a fan of the South Holland or the East Holland club? And then personalize the experience. And actually, based on their content consumption, we could tell with a reliability of 90% just by looking at what articles are they reading and what pictures are they clicking on, what their favorite club is. Now this was tremendous because we checked this with offline research and we found 90% reliability, which is really, really high. Next, we served interactions, so we made content dynamically. Basically, the main thing for them was that one banner that was served out that they wanted to promote their store with. We made that dynamic and adjust to the type of club interest that you would have, offer the right jersey, send you deep link you to the store to offer you the right product. And it worked like a charm. It just worked like a charm. They found conversion ratios, and if anyone knows the kind of typical e-commerce conversion ratios, this will blow your head. It's 69% from clicking on that banner to actually buying that jersey. So very happy that they're extending that now also to content, targeting the right kind of content to improve time on site, and offering subscriptions to their magazine to different audiences. So next one is on the goal of churn. So here, a company called FYE, For Your Entertainment, media stores all over the US. So they had this issue. They were running a loyalty campaign for a long time, loyalty cards, kind of like Target did, but then somewhat different. But they had this problem, a lot of people churning out of that loyalty program. Now, we've seen generally in loyalty programs that people are less enticed by getting discounts and are more likely to stay with the loyalty program if they get kind of experiences or stuff like that in return. So they did a couple of things, starting with behavior again. They looked at who is actually churning out of my loyalty program. So they looked at site visits, on-site search behavior, visiting certain type of pages about churning or about canceling membership. In the screenshot below, you see someone actually did search for end membership. And second, they look at general interest. So what kind of media products did I buy in the past? What entertainment categories did I show interest for? And they looked at someone's location, in this case, New York City. Now, the next step was interacting, and what they did is they took those visitors that were likely to churn, that were looking for ways to end their membership, and they inserted messages to prove the value of their service or to prove the value of their loyalty program, directly targeting those offers. In this case, someone has the interest of theater. Lives in the New York City area and is very likely to churn, so we offer an additional 25% discount on Cirque du Soleil in this environment because he has bought and shared gotten points by purchases in my company. I cannot share all of the results by this, but basically there's one thing they said: if we can just postpone my group of churn likely consumers for only 2 months, that represents a value of $1 million for me in revenue. So that again says how huge the impact of big data can be, even if you do small things in the beginning. Another example here goes into customer satisfaction. What if your goal is customer satisfaction and improving that? How can you use data to do that? Now, given our model, you'd say, customer satisfaction, we'd look at attitudinal and behavioral data and how consumers are acting given that. This example is a large bank here in Europe also, and like a lot of large banks pretty much across the world, they were in troubled water. And they were looking to drive up their customer satisfaction rates again, and at the same time improve their sales. So they used attitudinal behavioral data in terms of listening behavior. They looked at product ownership. What products do I already have? What type of customer am I? What's my transaction history? What products did I buy in the past from this company? Click behavior, search words, those kind of things. So really to get a good view of their individual users. And they interacted by offering both marketing and service messages. So not just upselling and targeting products, but even trying to serve their consumers and keep them happy in that sense. Mainly about operational issues. If there were ATM outages across the country, they would target those messages in this online banking environment. And they actually saw some stunning results, not just in customer satisfaction, but actually in sales also. So on the right here we see some personalized messages that would be shot in, and they saw, depending on the kind of product that they would upsell or cross-sell, they found a 6 to 50% higher sales, not just click-through rates, but sales. So this meant that there was a lot of opportunity for them to improve share of wallet for their existing customer base using these kind of techniques. Again, on the operational issues, they significantly reduced call center cost and along the way raised customer satisfaction. They did a survey on that offline later on, and they actually went year to year on. They saw a steady line of growth actually there because they're personalizing their communication. 3 more examples to go through, and then we're done. This is a Vara, a company here in Holland that's big in public broadcasting. One of the largest one, actually, big in youth and the higher educated market mainly. So they wanted to improve their loyalty. Doing that, they looked at behavioral and loyalty-based data, obviously. So they had the issue that budget that they get from the government as their public broadcaster would be based on the number of members that they have and how big their reach would be as an organization. So not just their budget, but also the continuity of this whole organization would hang in the balance of the number of members that you would have and the extent of the reach that you would have. So the goal was to grow their loyalty and really tie loyal fans to their brand. Now, the issue they have is that a lot of their programs are very popular, but the endorser brand, public broadcaster, is not as popular as the individual presenters or DJs that work for this brand. So they started to look at their online visitors and their behavior and segmenting them into 3 different groups. We have flybys, people that just look at some videos or some programs and go away from our site again. We have fans, people that return more often or might be a fan of one presenter or one DJ of this public broadcaster. And they looked at ambassadors. And these are the people that engage with this organization a lot, but are not yet a member of the overall organization. And next to that, they analyzed kind of the behavioral side of this. So, am I interested in music, nature, or politics? And they drove interactions by that. And below you see their site as it used to be their home site, just some general interactions based on that. And they would take that and based on your profile, your individual profile, personalize it and say, hey, you're a fan of this DJ. Let me offer you some clips on this DJ and try to engage you and draw you into our site more. So interaction all across the website, they offered relevant content. And in addition to that, if you would go all the way up to the step of being an ambassador, being more involved, visiting more pages, they would start offering banners that highlighted membership advantages and member discounts and try to convert you from an ambassador to really being a member of this organization. And they saw some pretty stunning results here also. They actually, since reach is very important for them, they saw a 34% hike in returning visitors. Now this is tremendous for an organization that is judged by the reach that it has in society. And they got to convert on that reach even. Those campaigns that they run to acquire new members, so conversion ratio that grew by factor 25. So that's 2,500% higher conversion than their regular campaigns would. Why? Because we're targeting the right audience with the right type of message on the right channel. Second to the last one is about upselling and cross-selling, so improving that share of wallet. And here's an example of kind of the Dutch AAA. They, like the AAA is one company that has one large product that everyone takes, roadside assistance. But beside that one product, they have a long tail of actually other offerings that could really help the automobile driver also. So what they did is they wanted to create upsell campaigns and grow their buy-in also, the lock-in of their customers. So they looked at a couple of things: who is a customer and who is not a customer on my site, and what are their interests. So they looked at behavior given things like the customer portal. If someone logs into that, I know it's a customer. They looked at CRM. If someone comes in, shares his email address, I can pull more data from my CRM, and I can actually tell a lot about who this customer is. Likewise, they look at product usage. Do I actually have their roadside assistance? And they looked at persona or product interest. And that meant looking at what kind of holiday people would take. Would they go to the countryside? Would they go camping? Would they go on a city trip? Or would they fly off to another continent somewhere? Now the goal was, in the summer period of last year, is to convert those who had roadside assistance in the Netherlands only to also take the roadside assistance for the whole of Europe, the whole European coverage. So what they did is, if you would fall into the bucket of existing customer and has the roadside assistance in Holland only, you would be offered this banner that we see here in the bottom, a relevant upsell, cross-sell. And in this case, it's even personalized to people that go camping in a countryside. Now this has some pretty good results there also. About 10 times the normal results that they would get using not segmented campaigns on their inbound channels. 1.5 click-through rate and a conversion ratio, and this really blew their mind, of 36%. Last example goes, and this is really about how can data impact your campaigns. So how can you actually drive conversion, drive that up by using your customer data in real time. So basically you use attitudinal and behavioral data. This Ajax is basically the largest soccer club in Holland, and even the largest sports club online here in Holland. They have the largest Facebook presence, but they also have TV content, magazines, apps, and they have a lot of fan stores, obviously also split up to different sections of their fan audience. Now the issue that they were facing is that the Champions League was coming up, and now this was last year October, and there's two important phases when you want to sell tickets for Champions League like that. You have the phase before the draw and the phase after the draw, and in both those phases they wanted to sell tickets. Now before the draw is kind of tricky because you don't know in what pool you're going to be, you don't know what clubs you're going to play. If you're going to play some really strong clubs, if you're going to play Barcelona, Madrid, it's going to be a really exciting game, and tickets will just fly over the counter. But if you're in a really dull pool, it will be really, really hard to sell those tickets also. So what they did is they actually took their existing database of people that paid or that bought tickets in the past to those Champions Leagues, added to that some bit of web behavior also. So who are my loyal fans that I see from their browsing behavior? And they even took some information on who has membership to season tickets in the normal season. And they did a campaign to that, targeted these people with the mailing, and everyone that would click kind of out of that mailing and land on their website which would normally ask them to convert, and if not, just give them a plain website, we would echo the same Champions League message to those involved fans and even personalize it. So last year you were on seat 15C. We're keeping that available for you right now. There's a pre-sale until August 27th. Take it now. And we echoed that across the website and even allowed them to share these kind of banners on Facebook, which actually happened. And they saw some pretty stunning results, even higher than the AAA example. They had CTRs between 5 and 15%, also because of really sharp messaging, and actually saw an incremental revenue. If you compare the revenue that they took from the same campaign in 2012 to this campaign as they did it in 2013, they earned in just 2 weeks $180,000 more by targeting and echoing that targeted message across our inbound channel. So you can guess how high their ROI was for using online engagement software. Now, a couple of examples, hopefully some inspiration for you also. I'd like to sum it up just before we end this webinar. So what have we seen really? Big data in marketing is offering us some enormous opportunities, but it often is also seen as complex and often it's also seen as expensive. But really the core of big data is about better segmenting. Sometimes this is also called using it as small data or using it as actionable data. Really the core of that is gathering only that type of data that you need for your business goal. Getting that and be able to use it in real time to get there in real time and influence your consumer behavior. And you do that by using 4 simple steps, basically aimed to get the right type of data, link it to the right type of business goal, and get some stunning campaigns out there that target the right audience. 3 steps in the execution: listening, looking at behavior, interacting, offering the right experience to the right individual on the right channel, and looking at the results, mapping them back to the next step to behavior interaction, iterating with every click, swipe, or like on any of your channels. In other words, better segmenting, more effect. And we can start today with just 4 easy steps. So I want to go to my last slide here. Shared a lot of our experience with you today, some insights from the research that we've been doing over the last 7 months. Now, if you want to recap on that or just let it soak in, after this webinar, we'll redirect you to a page where we put an infographic on. And this is basically the whole research report, the whole 7 months and all of the insights comprised into one small infographic that kind of gives you the highlights. And mainly those 4 steps. And what kind of business goal would you match with what kind of type of data. Also, if you're interested, I put a link to a couple of customer cases so you can read a little bit more about that. If you're interested to learn more or have additional questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to us. We're in the Boston area, and you can dial up to us for using 888-440-BLUE or send me an email at ruud@blueconic.com. That was all for today. I want to thank you for your presence at the webinar today. Hope you enjoyed it and hope to see you at our next webinar. Thank you.